Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start on the head swap. I'm going to take the valve cover off. The nuts on the valve cover are 10 millimeter. Alright, valve cover comes off, like so. Now we work on the head bolts. Head bolts are 14s. There's a specific pattern you have to loosen these to keep from warping engine head. So I always keep my tightening and loosening sequences in a little binder so that I can make sure to do everything right every time. Basically, the general logic is to go outside in so that it evenly loosens it so it doesn't try to bow. So you could just use that logic and go outside in, but I have a paper with numbers on it. So these are really on there. So I've got a much larger ratchet I can put on here for leverage. Damn. I'm gonna have to put like a jack handle on it. There we go. I'm just going to break these loose and then I'll take them out with the impact. Oh. There it goes, you can hear it. Woo! Alright, now, I'm just going to put this down on low because it won't take much. Alright. Now I'll get a container to put the head bolts in. Not that I'll be reusing these since they've been on there since 1994. I have a new set for the new head. I always go through and check the threads on all these bolts and make sure that nothing pulled out of the block or anything scary's going on. Looks like one of the middle ones was a lot taller than the rest. That may be an important thing to note. One was like really damn tall. And I gotta go arrange somewhere to set my engine head. There it goes. Hey, gasket came off on the bottom. Okay, so when I got that thing to the table, it started just pouring out oil. And there's like at least a pint of oil in that head, so I had to put something to catch all of that oil. So now I'm just going to clean the engine block surface off a little bit. Try to get it as clean as I can. This is going to take a while, so I'm just going to clean this up. I'm going to come in with some oil and run it around the edge of the cylinders. Okay, so I have a sufficient surface from my head gasket and my head. Right here is a little oil plug. This is here to control the flow on a non-Vtec head. That's built into the Vtec head, so we have to take this out before we can put our head on. Basically how you do this is you would take like one of the timing bolts, for instance, has the right thread, and you just take it and screw it into it, and then you pull it straight up and out. Take a pair of pliers, put the pliers on there, and pull straight up. And here's what that looks like. If I was doing a regular service, the O-ring on this would definitely need to be replaced because it is entirely square. Okay, so we've got the oil limiter removed, so that's good to go. I think we're good for a head gasket. Now we got these two dowels we have to put in here and here that help the engine head line up onto the block. Okay, so we're going to put these dowels in. One goes here. One goes here. So those are in place now. Now we can take our head gasket. A regular OEM Honda gasket will work just fine. Any good quality gasket should work. I always trust this FEL-PRO Permatorque MLS line. They're extra thick, so if you're looking for reliability, not if you if you're turboing something, you're going to want to have something like really thin, so like an original gasket works great. But for this, if I just wanted reliability, this works great. These things are extra thick. You could have a total beater that has chunks out of it. Use one of these and I guarantee you it would seal it. Alright, so we got our gasket. On the FEL-PRO Permatorques, you want to make sure there's a spot that has FEL-PRO on it and it has up. You always want that facing up. So we're going to take it and we're going to put this on the dowel pins. Like that. Just nice and even, ready to go. It's there. You always look down and make sure all the ports match up. Okay, and you want to do this as straight as possible. You can kind of use the head bolt holes as guidance. There it goes. There it goes. So that took me a while. I had to re-clean the dowels and get everything lined back up, and then after that I could put the head gasket on the block and drop the head on. It was just being difficult. Now everything lines up and I am confident that that could seal. Now we get our engine head bolts. Okay, for this application I'm going to use Malley head bolts. Part number GS33407. So one of these bolts was longer than the other ones, so we have to remember that. So our long bolt goes direct middle at the rear. So intake side in the very middle, because it's raised higher than the rest of them. You can look at it physically and see that right out of the gate. So factory tells you to lubricate the head bolts before installing them. And of course you always want to go over the threads and check and make sure that none of them are damaged. So this bolt's fully lubed. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in. So what I usually do when I put head bolts on is I'll hand tighten them in order of how they tighten down, and then I'll start torquing them with the torque wrench according to spec. Okay, to torque these down, you torque them in 3 steps. The first step is 29 foot-pounds. I'm just going to kind of do these evenly. I'm not going to torque them all the way yet. I'm just going to kind of tighten them uniform first. Just take time. You can really feel the head take shape as you put it on. Got our first clip. Second one. Third one. Alright, we're getting close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we got to go to 51 foot-pounds. Again, doing them as evenly as possible. Okay, factory specifies 72 foot-pounds. And he's got a lot of torque behind him. Oh my God. 7. 8. Damn. Okay, we're going to go over that one more time, just to be sure. It's on there now. I'm going to need a breather. Never forget to reset and zero out your torque wrench. So the engine head is now on. We don't want to put the top back together yet because we have to set the engine to top dead center. Right now all these valves are closed so the engine won't interfere with them. So now we got to get down there and set top dead center so that we can get this put together. For us to set top dead center, gotta take this balancer pulley off. Now what our goal is to get the keyway right here lined up with the arrow that's up here and the mark that's right there. So you want this perfectly lined up with both of those to be on top dead center. To turn this, I'm just going to use the crank pulley. So I'm going to use the crank pulley to rotate the engine around to where it needs to be. Be very careful that you don't lose your woodruff key that's there. When I get it close, I can use the balance shaft pulley to line it up with. Now when you get these lined up, there's a little dot, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little dot on this tooth. So your key, this dot on the tooth, this little mark right here, and this arrow all line up. When they all line up like that, you're at top dead center and you can move on. Now that we know that the pistons are at top dead center, we can move on to assembling. So I want to make sure that all these races are still clear of any debris. We want to lube them up and get our camshaft ready. We're just going to come in and set it on its races, just like that. There's marks on the cam that tell you if they're straight up or not, like at top dead center. So you want to spin it around, and there's a notch for the key for the cam gear on this side, up top. You'll want that facing up, and you'll want one of the notches for the distributor facing directly up as well. So the factory procedure would have you take Honda Bond, put a little bit of Honda Bond here, 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 and here. Instead of using Honda Bond, I like to use Permatex Ultra Gray. Stuff's pretty much identical. It's me to put some here. Here. Same thing. So now we've got some ultra gray here, going from here to here, here to here, here, up, and here, down. We'll let it get tacky and then put the rocker arm assembly on. You can put your cam seal on now. I like to wait and put it on when it's assembled. You want to make sure that all of your rocker arms, all the valve lash is zeroed out, so all these are loosened. Okay. So to get the rocker arm assembly seated with its dowels and flat, I just went over it with a soft pad of duct tape and a very, very light hammer, and just took the bolts out very carefully. Just bumped it, bumped it, bumped it, bumped it, and then bumped it, and it seated all the dowels. You gotta be very careful. I would use a rubber mallet, but mine's broken, so this is a very good light application for that. I'm just gonna very lightly put these down by hand first. Just like doing the engine head bolts, I'm just gonna patiently go through these. Now there's two different sizes of bolts on the rocker assembly. Ones on the outside are much smaller than the ones on the inside. The bigger ones get torqued to 16 foot-pounds. The outside ones, the small ones, get torqued to 8.7, so 8.5 foot-pounds. There's going to be a lot of torque wrench resetting on this, so I'm not going to record it because it's basically going to be me going through all of these, and then when I get to these I'm going to have to set it down, do these, and then do it again. 2 turns at a time in sequence. So right now there's no valve lash on it, it's just the way it is. And now I'm going to install my camshaft seal. Got a back Ornley 052 3600. Gonna rub oil on the inner part of the seal. I'm just going to put the seal down here. 1 1/8 inch socket that will work perfectly good for squishing this in there. So the F22B1 and F22B2 use the same exact part number for the cam gears. So to put the cam pulley back on, you put your key onto the camshaft. The notch on the camshaft is curved, and so is the key. So you put it in the curved way. Like so, where it becomes flat and square. You take your cam gear, you'll see up with a little notch. Put that right there. Line it up. Then you put your bolt in. I can tighten it down once the belt's on. If you have a cover that you want to use for the top part of the motor, you'd put your timing cover on before this. But I'm running without one. I just find it easier to maintain. I like to see my timing belt, that way I can keep up with it. I've never had a problem with not running a upper. If you live around a lot of gravel or do, racing on gravel or anything, you're going to want every piece of timing cover that you could possibly get a hold of. But for my application, just street use, this does perfectly fine. So now I'm going to put my spark plugs in. I'm just going to carry them over from the old head into this because I replaced them recently. So I'll put my spark plugs in now. So my spark plugs are cleaned up. They're ready for reuse. Just going to drop them in. Okay, so I'm not going to set valve lash yet. That'll be like my last thing because everything's got to be hooked up. So for right this second, I'm going to put the valve cover on. That way it's sealed up and I don't have to worry about any dust or anything getting in here while I'm working. I'm going to take a little bit of oil and I'm going to put it around the top of these posts on the spark plug tubes. That way it's a little easier for our seals to slip over. Do the same thing with the inside of these seals. Also, before I close it for a while, I'm going to take this oil and just run a real good run. I'm going to get a pick to very carefully put these seals in around the tubes. There we go. Nice and perfect. Damn, that's pretty. Alright, let me go see if I can find my fasteners for it, and I'll go ahead and put them on there. Okay, I'm going to test fit these bolts real quick, and once I know they're good, then I'm going to change out these little seals that go on the bolts. Man, this thing is looking so good. Look at that. Man, if I can clean up my engine block, this is going to look amazing. I mean, holy cow. Look at that. This is beautiful. That is impressive as hell. I'm gonna go get my breather and my oil cap to put on it. Oil cap. Does that even fit that? It might not. Yeah, it may actually not fit that. Is that a compatibility difference? Yeah, that is a compatibility difference right there, which I will show how to adapt that. So yeah, let me show you the difference. So here's about how big the breather is on the new engine head, on the Vtec head. Here's how huge the one on the non-Vtec head is. That thing's big. So I have a way that I can adapt that. So let's do that. So I've got some spare transmission fluid cooler hose, which is 3/8. 3/8 fits snugly over that. So what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of 3/8 hose over it, like so, and then we're going to cut it off about here. That makes our mounting surface for our breather slightly bigger in diameter. So I can take a little bit of WD-40 and run it around the outside of that hose. And that should be good to mount the breather on, just like so. Effectively, what we've done is we've made an adapter. There we go, and now our breather's back on there. Sweet. I can just toss the PCV valve back on too. Like that for now, just to plug it up. Okay, now we're going to put our Vtec solenoid on. Cleaned it up a good bit. I might do something later, like paint it or whatever. We're going to put it on with its new gaskets. This is a Gates part number VVS901. Variable valve timing solenoid gasket. Comes with two pieces. One's the part with the filter screen on it, the other one's for the top solenoid. So this one goes against the block, this one goes on the top. So I'm just going to take the solenoid, we'll put this part in the valve here with the screen indented in. So like that. This part will go in here, but we'll do that after it's on the car. I'm going to start with this one. And I'm going to do the other one across the way. Vtec is in the solenoid. Now we'll replace the gasket that's on the solenoid. All of these bolts are 10 mils. Alright. Okay. So we'll get this old gasket off and get the new one prepared and clean those surfaces. It's wiped down, good for gasket. So we've got the surfaces clean, we've got a new gasket. I'm just going to put this back on. Okay, so a couple of things I'm going to take off of the old head to put on here is the temperature gauge sender here and one of the coolant temp sensors here. I'm going to take those off of the old head to put on here, and this one's busted on this one, so I switch it out. The big one's a 19, so I found one that looked better than the one that was on the other head. I had this put up, so I just cleaned it up a little bit, and we'll put that one on. If you don't have a 19, you can always use a 3/4 inch socket. It works just as well. Yeah, that's the broken one. That one's toast. This sensor is torqued to 13 foot-pounds. Perfect. The temperature gauge sending unit is 12 millimeter. Here's what that looks like. Here's the one that's going in. I just reused this one cleaned up because it was in better shape after all. This is getting torqued to 7 foot-pounds. Cool. Now I need to clean this up and get my water outlet squared away so I can put it back on. Alright, so that looks rough, but I can't feel any imperfections in it. It's like perfectly smooth. So that'll be good to go. For the water outlet gasket, I have a FEL-PRO 35469. This is nice and simple. Just put it in there, and then we'll get some bolts in there. Beautiful. So to seal everything up so nothing can get in my oiling system, I went ahead and put all this back together. Yeah, put some spark plug wires in, and I'm just going to put my distributor on just to plug the oil hole right now. Gotta line the teeth up for the cam. And then there we go. And I'll go ahead and put my bolts in so that it can hold it in place. I'll just kind of put these over here. Alright, I think that'll do it for right now. I'm gonna go put all my other stuff up and put all the old parts up and clean up. It's Valentine's Day, so I'm gonna go take a break and get some cake and chill.